The Supreme Court today is hearing a plea against several stand-up comedians accused of mocking persons with disabilities. The petition by SMA Cure Foundation names Samay Raina, Vipun Goyal, Balraj Senghai, Sonali Thakur and Nishant Tawar. The court noted that while the comedians have apologized, the issue goes beyond a single incident. Justice Suryakant observed that guidelines should be broad-based, keeping future challenges in mind, and sought inputs from domain experts. Now, Attorney General R. Venkataramani told the bench that while guidelines will take some time, there cannot be a complete gag on speech. The court stressed on balancing free speech with dignity and questioned whether victims should be forced to approach courts each time around. Justice J.B. Pardiwala underlined that humor cannot come at the cost of mocking communities, especially when it is commercialized by influencers. The bench hinted at possible penalties, saying next time it may impose fines or such conduct with proceeds directed towards disabled groups. The matter is now listed along with cases of digital influencers Ranveer Allabadia and Ashish Chanchalani, who have also sought relief in related FIRs. My colleague Kapir Naqvi is joining me right now to get us more details. Kabir, it seems there is no relief for Ranveer Allabadia. There is a new plea against him that the Supreme Court is set to hear. But this is a very grave and serious area. This cannot be brushed under the carpet, where comedians, influencers can resort to mocking, making fun of persons with disabilities. They cannot be getting away with it. And that is exactly what the Supreme Court is looking at today.
No, you're absolutely right. When India's Got Latent came to the fore, people started really watching it, look at the amount of views and numbers it started stacking up. So when something came across and, made, big names like Samay Raina and Ashish Chanchalani, there are several other comedians as part of that list as well. You look at Nishant Tawar, look at Vipul Goyal. All of these have been reprimanded by the Supreme Court, saying that, humor at someone's expense can be considered humiliation. And there comes the aspect of commercial speech. Now, Samaya, everybody's talking about freedom of expression, Article 19 and Article 21 that deals with right to life and dignity. And Justice Pardiwala, justices on that bench have made it quite clear that when it comes to competition between these two articles, if Article 21 trumps Article 19, that's another important aspect for citizens out there to understand. That Article 19, freedom of speech, and Article 21 owing to right to life and dignity. If there is a competition, Article 21 will always override free speech. But then comes the aspect of social media. These days comedians take a lot of crowd work. There are live gigs. Improvs are happening. On-set improvs are happening. Various comedians now want to ask the people that are attending the shows to bring their purses and their bags up on stage and, ask them politely, can we go through it, so that they can go through what's inside each bag and then the crowd can start laughing at it. So do we now need guidelines, which is what the, Solicitor General was asked by the bench as well. And the General said that, we would like to place on table very, very soon the guidelines that we are going to be forming. But the bigger question, which other artists and freedom of expression, supporters are saying, that could this end up sanitizing comedy to a point where comedy and satire end up losing their edge? Take a look at what happens in the United States. There's absolute, protection from, punitive measure when it comes to satire. Now, India as a society, can we expand to do that? Should we do more of a balancing act? How do we ensure that guidelines on speech are not vague or misused for censorship? So the bigger question is that, yes, these comedians have been reprimanded, but where should India draw that red line? Should that red line be drawn in court? Should that red line be drawn in society? That's the big question for us, Samaya.
Absolutely, Kabir, but very interesting is where the bench has also hinted at a possible penalty, that if next time you are found to be on the wrong side of taking liberties as far as making fun of people with disability, they might go ahead and impose certain fine for such conduct. How much of this is feasible? How much of this can be implemented? How much of this sanitization, like you were mentioning, can actually be conducted with and impose fine and a penalty that can be levied?
See, now with the big names that are knocking on the doors of the court, and, Advocate Aparajita, who was, fighting the case for this particular Cure Foundation that had gone against these comedians. Not, of course, Samay Raina. Samay Raina was a different case. These are three different cases that the Supreme Court was hearing. But this is what the judge says. He says, go apologize on your podcast. etc. on your social media, and then consider what the advocate has suggested. Then tell us about the cost and penalty that you are willing to bear. So there is penalty coming either way, Samya, in this case. Whether this becomes a precedent for the future cases, is that going to be part of the SOPs and guidelines? One has to take a look at that. But Justice Kant has observed that there should be penal consequences, specifically under the IT Act, and these consequences and penal consequences are going to be proportionate to the harm caused. Again, a gray area. Now, if I utter a joke, let's say a Samya at you, how do we assess how much harm is caused and who gets what kind of punishment? So there is going to be punishment right now. I think the court has made it incumbent on the comedians that are facing the fury that they tell the court, come back after they've apologized on their social medias and podcasts, and then come back and tell the court what they think should be the right punitive measure and the fine that should be taken up.
Absolutely, Kabir. Thank you for getting us all those details. We shall leave it at that for the moment.